The room was silent except for the soft hum of medical machines. A little girl sat in the corner, eyes wide, lips trembling, but not a sound escaped her mouth. Her father, Daniel Harrington, one of the most powerful CEOs in the city, stood by her side helplessly. The man who had built empires, negotiated billion-dollar deals, and commanded rooms with his presence now couldn't even get a word out of his daughter. She hadn't spoken a single word since the accident, and as doctors shook their heads and therapists failed, Daniel's heart broke a little more each day. She hasn't spoken in 3 months, Mr. Harrington, said the specialist quietly. Her voice is fine, but her mind a broken bar, it's locked in trauma. The CEO clenched his jaw, turning toward the window where his daughter sat, hugging her knees. His eyes filled with desperation. If you teach her to speak again, he said, his voice cracking, I'll give you everything, everything I own. But no one answered. No one could help her, or so he thought. That night, as the hospital emptied and lights dimmed, a janitor named Elias quietly entered the therapy wing. He was an older man, thin and tired-looking, with gray hair and hands rough from years of work. He mopped the floors, humming softly to himself, unaware that someone was watching. Little Emma, Daniel's daughter, peeked from behind her blanket. It was the first time she'd looked up all day. Elias noticed her. He smiled gently, setting the mop aside. Hey, sweetheart, he said softly. You like music? She didn't answer, of course, but he didn't seem to mind. He pulled a small harmonica from his pocket and began to play a slow, tender tune. The sound filled the empty hallway, melancholy but warm, like a memory of sunlight on a cold day. Emma's fingers twitched. Her eyes followed him, and when he finished, she clapped once, very softly. Elias smiled. That's the best applause I've ever had. For the first time in weeks, she smiled. The next day, the nurses found her waiting at the hallway again just to see the janitor. He played another tune, and then another. Sometimes he'd whistle instead, or make funny faces with the mop, pretending it was a dance partner. Emma never spoke, but she laughed silently, shoulders shaking. Little by little, she began to hum, barely audible, like a whisper from a forgotten dream. When Daniel heard about it, he was skeptical. A janitor? He asked in disbelief. You're telling me my daughter is responding to a janitor? But when he saw it with his own eyes, the tears came. Elias was sitting on the floor beside Emma, tapping a beat on a bucket, while she hummed along shyly. Daniel stood frozen at the door, unable to comprehend how this simple man had reached where therapists couldn't. After everyone left, Daniel approached Elias. How did you do it? He asked, voice low. The janitor wiped his hands and said, Sir, I just listened. Sometimes people don't need doctors or money. They just need someone who sees them and not their silence. Over the next weeks, Elias visited Emma daily. They made up songs together, wordless at first, then with sounds, then with small words. Pa, she said one morning, eyes bright. Daniel dropped his coffee, heart racing. He rushed to her, tears streaming. Say it again, he whispered. She smiled. Papa. The entire hospital heard Daniel crying that day, not from pain, but from joy. He kept his word. Elias, he said, shaking the old man's hand, I'll give you everything: money, a home, a position in my company, whatever you want. But Elias only smiled. I already have everything, sir. I got to hear a little girl laugh again. He patted Daniel's shoulder and walked away, leaving the CEO speechless. Weeks later, Daniel invited Elias to his office to thank him once more. But when he arrived, the security guard said the janitor had quit. No one knew where he'd gone. He'd left a note behind. Greater than you gave your daughter a voice again. Now give her your time. That's the only thing she ever really wanted. Daniel framed the note and hung it in his office. From that day, he stopped living in boardrooms and started living in moments. So picking Emma up from school, taking her to the park, listening to her sing songs Elias had taught her. She grew stronger, her laughter filling the home that had once been so quiet. Years later, when Emma became a music therapist herself, she often told her students, a man once taught me to speak again, and not with lessons, but with kindness. And every night, before bed, she played a tune on her harmonica, the same one the janitor had played long ago, a melody that had once mended a broken heart and taught a little girl to speak again. Moral: Sometimes the richest hearts are found in the humblest hands.